So it's nice to have you on the show, Man and Markets. Briefly introduce yourself.
Yeah, I am Ashab Arnold, and I'm a lawyer.
Following this current situation between landlords and tenants that has been caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, what does the law say about these verbal agreements?
Well, first of all, we have to understand an agreement. An agreement is a contract. It's just an agreement between two parties where there is an offer and there's also a consideration. I can give you an example of someone gives you a room in an arcade in exchange for the rent money. So that makes a contract. The law doesn't specify whether that contract should be written or oral. So I would say yes, COVID-19 is an act of God. The fact that force majeure, most people say if you're going to rely on it, that you did not pay an area or a rent, just because there was an act of God, let's say a pandemic, then that pandemic should be in the tenancy agreement. But some people don't have tenancy agreements. Now, if I don't have the tenancy agreement, am I being protected by the law? I would opine yes, you're being protected. The fact being that Section 64 just talks about a contract, whether written or not. Yeah, that if you are unable to execute it because of the act of God or because of something beyond your control, let's say a government restriction, then you're not compelled to specifically perform. Reason being, you're being frustrated. That is under Section 66 of the Contracts Act. You're being frustrated in the sense that you no longer have any means to pay the rent. So you cannot be, in that sense, you cannot be compelled to pay.
Still, between these two parties, the landlords and the tenants, what are the likely problems or scenarios that would come out of this?
I think we have already seen some of them. Some landlords are vehemently asking for the rent that these people have been accumulating. Well, they may be right in a sense that if I had an area before the pandemic, strictly I must pay that money. I must pay that rent. But if I have been frustrated during the period I don't have any area before pandemic, let's say before May, I don't have any area, and because of the pandemic, I'm unable to pay. Yes, you shouldn't be asking me for that money. So these people are, the problems that are arising are that they are asking for the money. Some have started the asking for that money, like the legal process, and even some are threatening. Some they have locked their property in. So those are the likely things that we're supposed to see. People being chased away, people thrown on the streets, people's property being locked inside the buildings, and many others.
But since you said that this COVID-19 pandemic, it is something from God, so when you look at the landlords, it's not also their will that COVID had to come.
True.
That's why we're still seeing a conflict of interest between these two.
Yeah, none of the parties, neither the landlord or the tenants, are the cause. They are not the ones that brought the government restrictions, and they are not the ones that brought COVID-19. So under Section 66 still in the Contracts Act of 2010, it talks about it talks about frustration.
Okay.
Where the two of us have been, let's say one of us has been frustrated, then we have to terminate that contract. Let's say if I'm the landlord and one is the tenant, and such a thing happened, I'm supposed to terminate the contract in a sense that I move out of your house. Yes? But I'm not going to move out of your house because the president said no.
Okay.
These people shouldn't be moving outside the houses. They should remain inside until the COVID is over. So the landlords are being hit all sides in a sense that they cannot demand for the money and they cannot chase away these tenants. Yes.
So, Council, from where you sit, what would be the best way to handle the landlord and tenants issue in this COVID-19 between these two party situations?
The best way to handle this, first of all, it would be the tenants and the landlords sitting on a table and they negotiate. That look here, I'm not the cause of this pandemic. I'm not the cause of these government restrictions. I'm not the reason as to why you're not earning. So therefore, let's sit together and we see what we can do. That is one. Two, the parliament can come out and enact or make laws or a law that talks about such that gives a way forward after this pandemic, or even during, that gives a way forward during this pandemic. Thirdly, apart from those two, even the court, if court has such a precedent, if they can make such a precedent, let's say, I heard that Kasita filed a suit. If we can have such a precedent that talks about such a pandemic, then it can also address such an issue. So that could be the best way forward now, though there may be also others.
Thank you so much for that light. It was nice hosting you on the show. It will always be a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to meet you.